everything that for jobs, gigs, internships, and career advising to make an appointment is through Berkeley Career Manager. And we can talk about this a little bit more at the end if you don't have access to this and how to get access to that. And then we have also something called Berkeley Connect. So Berkeley Connect is where you can connect with fellow alumni. Maybe you just moved to LA or just moved to San Francisco, and you're wondering who's in those industry hubs. This is a directory essentially. It is something that you have to opt into. You have to fill out your profile, but this is something that you can connect with alumni, but also current students or students that are about to graduate, and great way to collaborate or create projects or just kind of get to know other folks. And then if you're wondering kind of like, what can the Career Center do for me? So it's something as simple as what we're talking about today, resume, cover letter review, but also internships, professional workplace etiquette, LinkedIn, website development. We have a partnership with Wix, which I want to talk about in a little bit if you're looking to build an online portfolio or kind of optimize your press kit online. Interview techniques, if you are not used to having a virtual interview, we can kind of do mock interviews. Sometimes we'll collaborate with Alumni Affairs and have some workshops and clinics like this one, and then also some funding. And then also if you're thinking about going back to school to get your master's, or you're a recent alum looking to get your master's, that's also something we've worked on a lot with recent alum, getting their grad school applications kind of like up to par and editing and helping with that. So I want to just play this little video. So this video actually just explains Berkeley Career Manager a little bit. If you're having trouble hearing the audio, please someone holler. We just tested it, so it should work, but just let me know.
The Berkeley Career Manager is your online resource for finding and applying for jobs, gigs, auditions, and internships, as well as scheduling appointments with career advisors assigned to the communities you'd like to explore. Once you log in, you could start by uploading your resume or building your profile. Next, find opportunities like jobs and paid gigs by searching the positions that are posted exclusively for college and conservatory students. You can also find internships that are paid or that qualify for academic credit through the Berkeley Career Manager. Before you apply, make sure you visit berkeley.edu/internships to become eligible if you're a student based in Boston. For students based in Valencia, visit valencia.berkeley.edu/international-career-center. To meet with an advisor, request an appointment at either the Career Center in Boston or the International Career Center on our campus in Valencia, Spain. This appointment calendar helps you find convenient times when the advisor for your community is available to meet. The events area features workshops, career fairs, and recruiting events. Sign up and RSVP in just a few clicks. The Berkeley Career Manager is a powerful tool for developing your career from your first semester through your life as a Berkeley alumnus. Log in today and see what opportunities are waiting for you.
So that's just a little brief kind of trailer for the Berkeley Career Manager. Any questions on that, we'll chat at the end, of course. And then this is Berkeley Connect. This is what I was talking about, kind of that directory of alumni and students. So this is Dom Jones, actually, if any of you know Dom Jones. Dom is in LA, and this is her profile. I just kind of wanted to kind of show you what this is. So it's kind of like an inventory. So Dom made this profile kind of, these are her ways of networking. She wants to network. She wants to find gigs. She wants to get hired. So she was a recent alum. But as for you all, if you're working or if you're looking for interns, this is a great way too to kind of post things through this directory and to connect with folks in our community. We also have a partnership with Wix. So if you're looking to build a website, or if you already have Wix, we work with them very closely. We don't pay them. They actually just partner with us and collaborate with us every semester and have workshops for our students on campus. This is something that we can think about if you want to do something for the alumni. Donna, kind of just take note. This would be a great kind of workshop. They are also based out on the West Coast as well, in San Francisco. So they're a great partner. They specialize in working with artists and developing portfolios to really cater to the industry. And there's a lot of templates that they've also developed for us. For those of you who remember, if you've done this scholarship renewal, when you had to come up with a portfolio, this was what they used to use actually, this kind of template to develop those. So there is a discount for alumni as well if you're looking for premium tools in a domain, and definitely something that you want to think about. All right, so if you have more questions about our services, we can definitely talk about it more, but I just want to jump in now to resumes and cover letters. Again, this is just best practices. There are so many different ways to write resumes and cover letters, but as the Career Center and myself we've been working a lot with the industry, kind of what are they looking for? What are the best ways for our students and alumni to kind of be at the top of the list when hiring? What are venues and booking managers and booking agents looking at when they're looking at a performance resume? So these are just kind of best practices that we've gathered. And again, not just the only way, just some things that you should take into consideration when developing a resume and cover letter. So the first one is resumes versus a CV. So and you know, if this is something that you are kind of pondering over a lot, we can definitely kind of talk about it more. But resumes versus a CV, resumes are kind of brief, kind of to the point and bulleted, talking about all your qualifications and skills, whereas the CV is a lot more extensive. I would say, depending on the country you're in too, that really does change. But in the US, CVs are typically used when you're applying for more of a scholarly or more academia version of a job, so more higher ed or teaching. And that includes just more of an extensive, you know, knowledge of what you've done as far as your experience, whether it be performance, teaching, presenting, working and gigging or projects. So that is just a more of extensive kind of resume, whereas a resume kind of just is straight to the point and it is edited depending on what you're applying for. And then business versus performance. So I'm going to show you all examples of all of these at the end. So don't feel like we're just going to kind of briefly glaze over it. I'm just going to talk to you about the best practices first. But business versus performance. Performance, obviously, you're going to highlight all your performance gigs and maybe a couple of things that maybe if you're a full-time performer, but you also produce or you sound design on the side, or you're maybe a manager for a band. So that's a performance one will be heavily highlighted on your performance experiences, whereas a business resume shows kind of more your technical and more required or relative skills to a job that's maybe more invested on the outskirts of performance jobs. So maybe working for a publisher, working for an agent, or an arts administrator, or a teacher even. So a lot of nuances there. So just something to kind of, you know, I love data, and I kind of, again, as we work with employers, especially now in a time where we're going through a global pandemic, we are constantly talking to employers about, you know, what is going to happen after this pandemic, and then what are you looking for, from our recent alum or alumni or students, and what can students and alumni be working on during this time, and to build their resumes in order for them to get a job after. So, you know, according to the National Association of Colleges and Employers, which is something that we base a lot of our learning outcomes and our strategic goals on, what are employers wanting to see, right? They want to see a lot of different skills: communication, problem solving, initiative, flexibility. And these are just a few things that we kind of pulled out, you know, and obviously depending on the position you're applying for, it's going to vary on what they're requiring or what they're looking for. But I kind of just like to show this because, you know, as an artist myself, I always say we're kind of the best candidate for most jobs because as artists, we have kind of these attributes that are kind of unique, right? Not only are we creative, but think about even if you're a, you know, performer, but you're a performer that promotes themselves and books their own gigs, like there are so many different skills that you have to offer that maybe a business major or a political science major doesn't really have right off the bat, because they don't naturally improvise. They don't naturally organize rehearsal schedules. They don't naturally compose music or compose different arrangements for things. And these are all skills that creatively we have naturally, right, as a musician or an artist. But as we kind of transfer that to a more business-based job, or maybe more on an entrepreneurial sense, right, as a performer, if you're really promoting your own work, or if you're trying to get out there on your own and market yourself, those skills are coming from our creative side. So as we talk about, resumes and cover letters, think about all the things you've done for yourself as a performer and how that translates and transfers as far as skills to finding more jobs and more opportunities. What are they valuing, as far as like what's, what are they looking for in a candidate? Obviously sometimes they look at major, work experience, if you have no experience or not, depending on, if it's an entry-level position or an internship, languages, studied abroad, what schools are that you attended, and then what other activities have you been a part of? I just went backwards. So why is a resume and cover letter important? I know in our industry in particular, networking and knowing folks in the industry is also really important, but also having a professional buttoned up side. And you're going to hear me say buttoned up a lot today, because I like to say that we're all our best performers and we put our best selves out there. But if we can just button it up just a little bit, it just kind of puts us on the next pillar of kind of excellence and success. So why does a resume and cover letter matter? It's because it kind of is a first impression in the door without literally someone seeing you or talking to you and not knowing you. So, right off the bat, when I look at a resume, I can see organizational skills. So it's the same as an employer, right? When an employer is looking at your documents, seeing your skills as far as organizing your resume can relate to how you organize yourself in a professional setting, but also attention to detail, your personality to an extent. Obviously you can't, show every part of your personality in a document, but 99% of the time, job applications or even booking gigs will ask for some kind of documentation of who you are professionally and to button it up in a way that kind of presents yourself, and relates to who you are as a performer is going to be very crucial. So, not, saying this not to kind of, be harsh, but how to keep your resume out of the trash. In 2020 today, I think everybody can relate to, everyone's attention span is pretty short. So reading long emails or long, articles that or news articles or anything like that, sometimes you can lose your attention pretty quickly. So think about that when you're writing a resume. If you're writing long, extensive, introductory profiles on your resume, or if you're going on and on and on about one job, but then some other jobs on your resume don't have all the details you need, they're not going to read it. So making sure that your resume is concise and clear and the details are in it is going to be really, really important. So if you can skim your resume and kind of get the basic gist of what your experiences are and what your skills are, that's going to be kind of key. Formatting matters because if I'm jumping around, or if an employer is jumping around to see when you had this job or what this job is or what the company is, it's going to be hard to read and you're going to lose, they're going to lose interest. And you also don't want an employer or anyone that's trying to hire you to guess, here's a good example. Are a producer for a band and you wrote as one of your bullet points that you produced many shows in Los Angeles. Now, I could look at that and be like, oh, okay, that person's experienced, but what did they actually do? And what does many shows mean? So how many shows? What kind of shows? What's the audience? Was it large scale venues or was it small venues? So being specific and not having the employer go, well, what does that mean? Or what did they really do? Or it's going to be kind of key for that. And that's both in a performance and a business resume. So making sure that in your performance resume, if you're saying you're a solo artist and you're listing all these kind of, maybe you say, performed at many performances in large venues, and they're like, well, what large venues? So kind of talk about that. Maybe it's the House of Blues, maybe it's an arena, or it's something simple as open mic nights or something like that. But you want to be specific, and you want to say maybe an audience of 25 to 100, or give some kind of statistics to that. Okay. And then for resumes and CVs, think about it. It is personal. Again, these are just best practices. So please take this presentation away and kind of say, okay, Andy mentioned this. Maybe I can spice up my resume and kind of change this. But I don't want you to go and delete your resume. It's all about how you can optimize it and button it up. And your resume is going to look different, and you're going to have different resumes for different things. I think one mistake that a lot of folks do is they just send the same resume to 4 different employers. You should always at least look at your resume, get if you can, at least a little bit, or just check it out before you send it again. Because you just never know how you can optimize it, how you can button it up for someone else. Because that little personalization is what's going to help you and stand out. If you can, you know, some of you are probably established and have been performing a lot or have been working a lot. So resumes can be a little longer. I would say, though, if your experience is kind of summarized and you're kind of have some basic things that you want to showcase in a resume, 1 page is enough. But for alumni, I will change that kind of like language of what I always say to students, like 1 page is enough for a student, but alumni, maybe 2. You know, for me personally, mine is about 2 pages just because of my experience and different things that I've done in higher education. But definitely make it non-narrative. Don't have paragraphs when you're explaining a job. You don't want a job description. You want a bulleted list of the things you did that relate to the job you're applying for. And then to template or not to template. So what I'm going to show you today are not templates at the end of this discussion. It's going to be more of examples. A lot of people, it's easy for people to Google resume template or use a resume template on Microsoft Word. Don't, just because this is a story and a very, very true story. I'm currently going through a search for another advisor in the Career Center, and someone used a template. And this was an established person in the field, not necessarily someone that, you know, just graduated. And they used a template on Microsoft Word. And when I got that resume and I downloaded it from our, you know, server, it said literally first name, last name. It didn't say their name. Because they used a template, and because I downloaded it on my computer on Microsoft Word, it restarted, you know, reset the whole template. So beware of templates. If you do use one, make sure it's a PDF. That's just, you know, my 2 cents there, but try not to use a template because it's easier for you to manipulate and change your own content rather than manipulate a template to add your content to that. These are just some basic points. Make sure your name is there. It's large. Sometimes someone's name is so small that I can't even see it. Mailing address. This is always a good question. Like, do I really need to put my mailing address? Personally, I don't think so. Location is fine, like Boston, Massachusetts, Los Angeles, California. But I think this my personal opinion is that this stems from when offer letters or job postings were very much in the mail. If and when you get hired, that's when you can kind of give that information. There's no need to put your address out there. I personally, when I want folks to know where I live, if I'm applying for a job, and if it's just location, that's easy too. So up to you, but personally, you don't need to do that. Phone number, email, website, little, thing that I always like to remind folks of, you don't need a hyperlink on a document because they can't click a document. If it's a PDF, perhaps you can do that, but you don't need to do that. And then obviously reiterating phone and email, not necessarily save the word count for a description for a job, and then make sure your email is professional. And that's always a good way to think about how you can button yourself up if your email is not kind of updated. Let me see, I'm getting a notification here. I just want to make sure. Okay. And then let's just keep going. So a summary or objective. So a lot of resumes or templates that you might see may have like objective folks will write to obtain a job in the music industry, in publishing or A&R or something like that. Not needed, because cover letters are always, 98.9%, or if not more, 100%, always required for any kind of job. I would say personally for performance resumes, profiles and summaries are very useful. And what I mean by that is, so you have a performance resume that lists all your kind of gigs and different groups you've performed with, different credits, but you have a profile that's 1 or 2 sentences. Think about it as your elevator pitch. So if I were to ask you, Andy, what hey, what do you do as a performer? That's your 2-sentence, 2-liner kind of talking about, you're a guitarist that performs in, I don't know, Latin, blues, jazz, whatever, primarily, you know, working as a backliner or as a solo artist. So that's always good to use in a performance resume. And again, 1 to 2 sentences max. You don't want a bio. It's not a bio. I try to remember that as well. Education, this is pretty straightforward. I don't think I really have to go into detail about this, but make sure you know what your degree is. The biggest mistake sometimes, right, is like, you know, they had a bachelor of music, they got a bachelor of music, but they wrote a bachelor of arts. So, you know, make sure you know that. Relevant coursework if you're a recent alum, or if maybe you're an alum that recently took some new classes on Berkeley Online, include those. That's really important to know that you're professionally growing and you're doing that professional development. Okay. Experience. So showcase your experience, highlight your experience that, you know, I spoke about this a little bit more. As a performer, you've done more than you actually think you did. Just because you were just performing doesn't mean you were also a producer or a manager or something like that. So make sure you kind of really doing there. And then what can you include? It doesn't have to be just paid gigs or paid jobs that you've done. It could be projects. It could be something that you worked on with someone else. Maybe it's just you worked on someone else's EP that you want to include that as a producer or something like that. So volunteer experience is also very important. If you volunteered for Lollapalooza, working with VIP guests, that's a huge kind of contribution to the music industry. So why not put that on your resume? Because that is something that you not only did you kind of use your customer service skills, but maybe you organize a schedule, or maybe you were just, you know, working behind the scenes at a festival. So that's definitely something that's really important to add there. Go small to big, you know, always have a title. I think it's very easy to fall into, like, you kind of just write self-employed guitarist and then you kind of just list all your gigs, but maybe you're a producer for something else as well that you want to add on there. Oh, someone just, okay. All right, thank you, Luca, bye-bye. So dates too, make sure your dates are coordinated and the same. So you don't want to do month, day, and year for one job and then have just year for another. So make sure it's consistent. Consistency is very much key in a resume, because that shows off your organizational skills as well. Bullet points, I've already said a lot of these. Non-narrative, and then the skills. So the skills vary on obviously the person, but make sure your hard skills are there. Software, any software. I mean, you know, you can probably add Zoom to your list now if you feel comfortable. Zoom is a technical skill that we're probably going to be adding a lot to our resumes in year 2020 because of the COVID-19 situation. I'm telling every student that, or every person that I meet with, like, Zoom is a skill now. So make sure you're adding all of those as well. And then this is the part that skills will be edited depending on what you're thinking, what you're applying for as well. All right, jumping to cover letters a little bit. Well, let me do this. Does anyone, I don't want to go too far and forget questions, but does anyone have any questions? If so, just feel free to holler right now. If not, I will keep going. Any questions about resumes? Donna, Magdalena, anything that you want me to touch on more? Okay, I will keep going then. Okay, so cover letters. So obviously the basics, you want to make sure that it matches your resume, and then that your cover letter obviously is going to tailor to the job or gig or whomever you're writing it to, tailor to them. And this is where it gets personal and narrative. So your resume is the facts, the figures, the details, whereas this is more, you can write a little bit more personably, but you want to button it up. So your personality should show, but you want to button up who you are. So think of it more like an informational interviewer that you're meeting someone at a networking event and you want to kind of talk more about you and kind of pitch yourself. So this is definitely more on the narrative side. Cover letters, I'd say 3 paragraphs, 4 paragraphs max if you have to. Shine spotlights on different things that you've done that relate to the specific position. Mention who you are, what you're applying for, why you're a good fit. These are just kind of technical things you can add. And it should be a standalone document. You know, sometimes hiring managers or folks read the cover letter first. So make sure that it's not part of your resume and that it's a standalone document. All right, so this is something that I came up with actually randomly in an advising appointment. probably because I missed lunch that day or something. But with a cover letter, think of it as any kind of burger. Okay, so if you think about a cover letter that is 3 parts, and typically when you go get a fast food burger, or the first thing you typically see is the top bun. So that's your introductory paragraph. So think of it as if it was kind of burnt, or if it was kind of flat, you probably want to eat it. So think of it as this is your first impression, your introductory paragraph. The top of your burger is going to be the thing that kind of gets you in the door. So make sure that it's clear. You introduce who you are and what you're applying for, and you kind of have that kind of like pitch sentence in there, and that's going to kind of get you in the door and help you kind of shine. Now the experience, this is the middle, right? Your condiments and your cheese or whatever, you might not want cheese that day. That's going to change every single time maybe, or maybe you're consistent but you might change a little bit here and there. This is your experience. This is the experience that you're going to either add some different things from your resume, or change some things or language to kind of relate it to the job you're applying for. And then obviously without the bottom bun, the whole burger falls apart. So make sure that your support paragraph, your last paragraph, your conclusion, supports your whole cover letter. So this means you're summarizing who you are, what your qualifications are, why you want to work there, but then also do your homework. So if you're applying for Cobalt Publishing, for example, you want to know the artists that they recently signed. You want to know, did they just win Grammy Awards as far as their artists? Talk about that. Relate yourself to those companies, because that's going to be the thing that kind of sets apart from others and says, okay, Andy, you're actually a good fit. I definitely want to interview you, because they've done their research and they also talked about their personal experience with the company. And this could be venues as well. If you're a performer, sending an email even, right? Think of a cover letter too. You can use a cover letter in the email format. Maybe it's a lot shorter when you're sending demos, or maybe a video clip or a sound clip of you to a booking agent or a manager at a club or a venue. You're going to want to have in your tool belt kind of like, okay, who did they recently book? You do your research and talk about those artists. Maybe it's another Berkeley alum. Maybe it's an artist that you've actually always followed and they just recently performed at that venue. So throw in those key things, and that's going to help you support your cover letter or email or message. So in an intro, kind of just like what is included, it's the what, where, who, and why, okay? What job you're applying for, where did you see the job, who you're writing it to. It's best to try to find who you're applying to whom it may concern. Is just not the best practice right now to address a cover letter, because it should be addressed personally. If you don't know who it is, hiring manager or booking agent or something is just a lot better than to whom it may concern. And then why you're applying is definitely really important, and that. And then you'll re-emphasize that in your conclusion as well. Your experience, 1 to 2 paragraphs. Again, with your experience as an alum, you'll probably have a little bit more. So that can expand to two paragraphs. Tie this in with your job description. Use your own words. Don't copy and paste, please. Don't just say, I'm a good facilitator in conversation with artists, and then that's exactly what it says in the job description. It's gonna show. So make sure you're kind of using your own words and make sure that it relates to you. Talk about your skills. Talk about your how you communicate. And then it's always good to be confident in yourself, okay? It's always better to say, I'm a good candidate for this position because of X, Y, and Z, rather than I think I could be a good addition to your team. That just shows a little bit more confidence in that you want this position, and it's not just something else you're applying for. And then your conclusion, short, sweet, to the point. Say thank you. And support your cover letter with research and investigate the company or employer that you're applying for. All right. And then where are you going to find these examples? So they are on our website, and I'm going to pull those up in a second. And then they're also in the Berkeley Career Manager if you are already logged in on that. But our how to find those would be right here. So berkeley.edu/career center under prepare. And then you can also log into the Berkeley Career Manager there to find those documents. And then, if you already have them, I think it's always easier to write a resume and cover letter if you're looking to actively apply for something or to submit it somewhere. So have those as examples, but have someone else look at them. I'm open to looking at alumni resumes. I'm sure Donna is too. If if you're LA based, but make an appointment with a career advisor. Good writing, like your music, takes practice. So, or art. So make sure you're, writing more and more cover letters. And I always say, read your cover letter out loud at least once to yourself. If it doesn't sound like you, or if it sounds too, if it sounds like, oh, that does not sound like me, it sounds like I'm, brown nosing or just really not interested in this company, it will show. So make sure you're reading it out loud. Okay. All right. This is just my contact info one more time before I jump to pull up some examples, but feel free to email me, visit our website, and then definitely visit our social media as well. So as I am pulling up these examples, now that I'm done with the kind of talking a lot stuff, anyone have any questions at all? Or am I just spitting out too much information to process? Anybody? Donna, Magdalena, do you want to add anything or anything that you saw that you want me to talk about a little bit more?
No, all good on this end. Totally echo. We're here, all of our staff as resources, and we're always open to just sort of look over things and be a good sounding board. We all have different perspectives and different ways that we do things. So it's always helpful to talk to different folks. Even just going through this with Andy, I'm picking up things that I've never thought about. And that's kind of what all of our community is all about.
Awesome. So I'm just going to quickly show you where some things are. Let me see if I can, hold on one second, share my screen one more time. So everything is on our website. And the Career Center website is open to the public, so you don't have to log in. But under Prepare is where you'll find most of our guides. And I'm going to just show you the resume guide here. Oh, actually, it looks like it is login required. So it is login required. But however, if you have Berkeley Career Manager access, or I can send you this after the workshop, Donna. Let's connect after. I'll send you these PDFs so you can give it to all the participants today, cover letter and resume. But just kind of want to show you quickly what the resume guide looks like, because I'm happy to give you that. All right. So there is a guide to CVs and a guide to resumes. And what's really good about it is, again, it talks a little bit about what I did today, best practices, key points, but then also my favorite part. Oh, okay. Hold on, I just got a notification. Robert, you had a question. Oh, references. If and when, okay. So you do not have to include references on your materials unless they ask. I always say best practice is to not include references on a resume or cover letter. Typically, for any kind of job search these days, they're going to ask that for you in an application, a digital application, straight up, or they're going to ask you at the end of a process. And if a booking, agent or a manager is asking for references, then they'll typically ask for that. You don't have to include them ahead of time. Yeah, I hope that answers your question. Okay, awesome. All right, so just kind of share. So again, this goes into, extensively into what I talked about resumes and format, but this is gold. This is the power action verb list we've compiled. So basically this tells you any word that you can use to basically explain something. So if you produce something and you're like, okay, I don't know how to talk about how I plan this or how I organize this. This kind of gives you every single word you can probably use, which is really helpful when building your resume. So we kind of give a blanket, and we made this ourselves. We just kind of typed it on Word, but kind of give you an example of what you should include in a resume. But also, these are all Berkeley alumni or Boston Conservatory alumni. All these examples are folks that have worked in the field, graduated, gotten internships or jobs. And these are all for you to kind of look at, and we've gotten permission from folks. And all different styles, as you can see, not one or the other is the same, but this is a good example of, let me just see here, I'll show you my favorites. This is a good example of a more business type resume, talking about experience from intern to CEO and director to skills and software, talking about that. But then a performance resume, one that I want to bring up is this one here. So Aubrey, this is not a real, these are all fake names, by the way, so you can't really find these people. But as far as like profile, right? Classically trained violinist, but also self-taught fiddler, talking music influenced by, you know, all these different genres. Really cool, kind of gives that pitch, but then also performance highlights and then some recordings and then maybe some teaching as well. So very clear and concise, to the point, and it kind of puts all that together. And then you have someone like this, Bryn, who has instructors, different ensembles, and so on and so on. So I will definitely send this to Donna to send to you all, but this is a great resource to have next to you as you're writing or editing a resume, for sure. Okay. And then I want to just quickly, let me see if I can go back here. Show you the cover letter guide. I think I lost the screen. Just give me 1 second. All right, I'm gonna share this again. Oh, David, did you have a question? Go ahead,
Yeah.
David.
Do you have examples of CVs?
Yeah, you want me to pull this up as well? I can pull that up right now if you want.
Thank you.
Sure, yeah. Let me do that. I'll do that first, and then let me share my screen again. Let's see here. Where is it? All right. So going back to the website here, prepare. And then CV is under our resume as well. And I'll send this guide to you all. But here is an example of the guide. Again, this is definitely more extensive, more and more pages talking about your experience in more detail. Talks a little bit about resumes versus a CV, all the different categories here. So you can see, you know, resumes 1 to 2 pages, CV 2 to 4, if not more. Okay. And you can see all the information is a lot different, whereas this is just experience, and this has every single probably thing you've done as far as like memberships, articles you've written, anything like that. All the different sections as well. So section identification, education. If you had a master's degree or a terminal degree, you want to talk about your research emphasis. Teaching experience, research experience. I know David, you had mentioned that you had taught at Berkeley before, so a CV would probably be the best choice for you. References. This, again, depending on what you're applying for, it could vary, but because CVs, you can kind of add more and more pages there. You can add your references to the CV, but not necessary at all times. And then some examples. You know, we have this blanket one that you can kind of look at, kind of just more of a template kind of style. But then we also have, oh, now my computer's freezing, of course, an example of one. So this is a theater-based one with an MFA degree, talks about teaching experience, training, areas of teaching, honors, directing credits, acting credits. So this guide talks a little bit about the differences between a resume and a CV, you know, the different sections, the pages, what you want to add as far as, you know, if you're looking to get into academia. But they both have similar traits as well that you want to make sure you stick with. And then it talks a little bit about the sections, so what you should include in a CV, education, dissertation, the work that you've, you know, published, or maybe you're co-publishing or about to publish. Your CV is definitely going to be more lengthy, so definitely be open to adding whatever you feel that's relevant to the position you're applying for. Teaching experience, research, you know, training, references. Again, I already said that. And let me just skip here to an example. So the example here is a theater-based, MFA-based person. So obviously it's going to change depending on who you are, but basic gist of it is, so as an actor or director, this person added their training, where they've taught before, the kinds of subjects, topics that they teach. So honors, any awards, directing credits, acting credits. So for a musician, this might be, you know, producing credits. It could be managing credits. It could be recording. You know, if you recorded as part of a Grammy nominated or produced album or something like that. Different performance aspects, professional experience, and then skills, memberships. And this one is very similar as well. Okay. So obviously a CV is very extensive, and I would say if you're writing one for the first time, this template here is a great one to kind of base it off of. And then you can obviously change the sections to cater to what you've done. So if you are more of a performer, but also sound designer, maybe this is, you know, recordings would be really relevant. But if you don't record and you're just more of a teacher and performer, then you just want to stick to that and you don't have to have these sections. This is just an example. Okay. All right. So with that, let me just show you cover letters real quick, and then we'll just kind of open it up to Q&A. So cover letter here. And these are all guides that if you want the other ones as well, I can share with you all. A cover letter, again, talks a lot about what it is. The sections we already talked about in the presentation today. And then some do's and don'ts for that. Some examples are located down here. So this is kind of like the template that we talked about. But then also we have some examples that folks have used to apply for different positions. You can see that they're pretty short. You don't have to go crazy extensive, right? So this is a job description, and then this is the job that this person was applying for. But then this shows the cover letter for it. Again, one page is plenty to apply for these. All right. So that's pretty much it. That's all I have as far as like what I wanted to chat about today. So Donna, I'll open it up now to any questions anyone has, or anyone wants me to pull up anything else that you want me to show. I'll happy to do that. But again, I will share all these resources with everyone. And yeah, and obviously open to advising as well. So opening it up to you, Donna, or anyone in the room. Kev, you have a question?
Andy, thanks for all the information. Really appreciate it. Do you happen to have a Wix portfolio you can show us that you feel is well laid out?
Oh yeah, sure. Actually, let me show you a website. So we actually have a homepage with Wix, specifically for Berkeley, that has a lot of templates. Let me just show you here. And it obviously a Wix template or a good Wix website depends on what you're looking for. I mean, Kev, you're more of a performer,
I'm
correct?
a recording engineer, music producer.
Okay, so even that, right? There are a lot of recording producers that kind of just have one page that kind of just showcases all their work, but you know, SoundCloud or something like that. But let me just pull that up real quick. All right, so this is, it's berkeley.wix.com. You can ignore this, but the website is berkeley.wix.com. This is specifically for Berkeley community only. But what we've done is we've created templates. So if you are let's just say you are and these templates can be used for any use. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to be a performer to use these, but you know, Kev, if you wanted to use this template and reformat it to your liking or what you're kind of looking for, but this is for a music production student. And let me know if this did pop up, right? Everyone can see Madison Coleman here?
Yes, we can see.
Okay, perfect. So you can see musician, producer, engineer, and then some tracks, and maybe it's an Instagram feed, or maybe it's a blog, you know, or maybe it's like a calendar of things that you're you know, going to be producing in the future, or you have produced. I think one of my biggest tips for Wix or any website is that you always want your homepage to be a teaser leading to something else. You don't want to put all your content that you've produced ever in your life all at once, because no one's going to sit there and click through everything. They're going to want to see the best of the best. So think of it as when you see a teaser trailer, right? At the movie theater or on TV. If you see a teaser trailer, it's pretty short and you're like, oh, I want to see more. You probably click full trailer or look it up. or read more about the story. So if you have a teaser bio or a teaser and maybe you have 1 or 2 tracks on here, and then a link is kind of talking about, look at more material or see more, then you're going to grab their interest a little bit. If you kind of give it all out, they're not going to take the time, or anyone's not going to take the time necessarily to do that. And what's really good about Wix is that there's a mobile editor as well. So after you finish your online website, you can edit it so it kind of caters to what it would look like on a phone. So a lot of people put a lot of content all at once, and then it just becomes like this website that's, you're scrolling for hours and hours. So making sure that your, again, homepage is what you're going to want to base all your content on, and then folks can kind of dig into your website more if they want to look into it more. Does that help, Kev?
Yes.
And obviously, this website too has some examples that our partners at Wix have curated just for us. So let's just look at this one, for example. This is a Wix-based website, but this is AP Records. And you can see, pretty simple. If my internet would work. Looks like it's kind of just stalled here, but you can see view all project. Oh, here we go. Couple of highlights, but then view all. About, quick tagline, more about. Social media, kind of brought on there. So you see that there's a lot of different things on here, but it's more of a teaser, and you want to grab the audience first before you kind of make them dive, deep into what you're doing. Good question. Good question. Or anything else that you were interested in kind of chatting about right now? All right. Oh, hi, Fritz. I didn't notice that Fritz got in here.
Hello. My name is Patrick. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. Yep.
Okay, perfect. My question is actually on with CVs and resumes. I've seen them done before where a tremendous amount of work went into the actual design of the CV, the graphic design behind it. So there are various colors and lines, and then for many of us like myself, it is very straightforward. I was wondering if you had any thoughts on those different styles and what impression it makes to you to get it in different styles.
Yeah, I think it honestly depends on what you're applying for, and also it depends on your actual skills on designing those, and if it relates to your kind of like skill set. I don't think you need to have this fancy over the top resume that kind of has this graphics or colors or designs if that's not who you are. If I were if I was a brand expert and I was working for a music company that maybe they're hiring for a graphic designer or someone that's designing marketing materials, I would take a second look at my resume and say maybe I should spice up my resume a bit. But also a resume that just has all your fine details is just as fine. So it's really a preference thing. The industry is not looking for that. They're not, I think it's more of like finding out what your experience is and how your qualifications meet the opening or the job they're looking for. So it's definitely a preference thing for sure. Sometimes when I look at a very overbearing or very well-designed resume with colors and graphics, I actually can't find the information I'm looking for sometimes. I actually went with a student today that had a skills section that had kind of like almost like meters of, meters of, if it was like Pro Tools, and it had a bar, almost like a progress bar of how advanced they are. And I'm like, that just kind of looks like lines to me. So as a recruiter, I don't know if I would read that as something like, oh, this person has like 75% of this progress bar filled, and that's how much, how good they are at that skill. So I'd say creatively, that's up to you. You don't have to do that to make it a better resume. Good question, though.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, of course. Any other questions? I guess I've done my job, Donna. I think
All right.
I
I don't see
much.
anything. If anybody has any last minute questions, feel free to pop in. But at this point, we will end the session. Like Andy said, he'll send me the slides afterwards. So I'll send them out to everybody here. I believe everybody registered through the Eventbrite, so I should have all of your emails. There is one person who just has a phone number up who's been on the line. If you want to go ahead and send me an email so I can make sure that I mark that you were here, so I include you in that email to send the slides. My email is dmjames@berkeley.edu. You can also chat to me real quick if you want to let me know your name. But yeah, this was a great first session. I'm really glad that we got a chance to bring this information to the alumni community. Please remember that Career Center and Alumni Affairs are here. If there's anything you want to chat about, or if there's any resources that you're looking for, we're working to bring what folks are wanting to see to us while we're in this kind of digital space. And we're always open to your thoughts and your ideas. So thanks everybody for joining. It was really cool to see folks log on and to bring everybody together in more of like a national way and international. Shout out to everybody who tuned in from long distances. Thanks, Bob. All right, well, that's it. We will hopefully see you at the next one. I think next week we have our digital marketing workshop. So if you're interested in that, keep a lookout. Really rely on those Facebook groups right now for events and communications. Our emails are a little bit more digesty, so they're a little bit different than we're used to. So please be looking on the lookout for any posts in the social media groups by our staff. All right.
Awesome.